The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors: Woodland Stud, Brecon Farms, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred, Stonewall Stud, The Clubs, Alexandra Park, Cambridge, Addington and Ashburton, Garrard's Horse and Hound, and IRT. It's your horse and our passion. Hi everyone, welcome into another edition of your Box Seat. Apologies for it being a little bit later in the week, but with the yearling sales on with New Zealand Bloodstock, very important, Michael Guerin, that we're able to wrap everything up, and what a sale it's been.
Remarkable, Greg. Big hi to you, big hi to everybody watching around the country, or of course our friends watching in Australia, counting down to Miracle Mile Week. Incredible numbers at the sales, Greg. Any sale of any type of horses, not everybody's going to get what they wanted to get. I think there was a softness to the middle market between that sort of 40 to 70 or 80 period. But what was remarkable was 3 lots over the course of the 12 days or 10 days of the sale, going for more than $300,000. That's getting close to record stuff. And Greg, a lot of action from the same sort of 5 to 7 buyers in that 200 to 300 range. These are big numbers, Greg, and these are big numbers which should help us retain some of those good mares in New Zealand, because people might be able to say, hey, I'm not going to sell the next Amazing Dream or the next Beyond Words, because if I retain it here, I can go to betters for 2025 and potentially have a 10 times the service fee colt. So I'm hoping what we've seen recently, Greg, with losing some of those top mares, I'm hoping that starts to drop away because of the extremely high levels we're getting to now with some of the top colts in recent, and also a filly at Karaka, in the recent sales.
Yeah, well, let's have a review of the 3 days chronologically. So let's go back to Monday, which of course was the All Trotters Day. And here's the stats out of it, Michael. The average being 35, just over 35,000, almost 36,000. The top lot was the Father Patrick Ray Galleon, offered by Bodine Breeding. 120,000 for that one, and of course 110,000 for the Majestic Son, 1 over Kenny colt, offered by Lex Williams. So those statistics there, the clearance close to 70%. The majority of those trotters were selected by those who were absolutely there for that, Michael. It was an all trotters sale. I think it's clearly been the right thing to do over the last 3 or 4 years, and now it's worked out perfectly, because the people go there and the trotters don't get lost amongst the paces, which I think they did in the past.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, no sector of the industry is growing up more than the trotting section. It used to be you could go there and pay 20 or 30 and get a nice trotter. Yes, you still can. But the trotters by those top North American stallions, Father Patrick, obviously Muscle Hill, they're going to go for big money, Greg. What the Hill being the obvious other one. I think what you're seeing over the entirety of both types of sales is people want fast horses close up in the family. And this is the family of Stent. That's a fast family. We know Stent's one of the faster trotters we've had here in the last sort of 10 or 20 years. So that speed factor, Greg, as we go through these top lots over all 3 days is going to be crucial. Really good sale, and for people who have Father Patricks, we're seeing them looking like they're going to be good horses, Greg, which can also stay. So a lot to like about this type of breed. Thought the trotting sale was really good. Thought there was a few passings there which were really interesting. I think a few vendors were maybe surprised there wasn't quite the money throughout this entire sale that we saw at Karaka for the top level trotters, and therefore they've taken them home. Still, that gives them the option to maybe either race them or sell them in the future.
Yeah, top lot purchased by Diamond Racing, the Robert Dunn team, so looking forward to seeing that one out of Ray Galleon. Let's move on to Tuesday, the first of the pacing sale days, and well, there was ebbs and flows throughout the entire sale for these, but this was really exemplified by some of the higher lots and then a real lull of quite a few passings, and that's reflected there, Michael, by the 62% clearance. The Better's Delight Bonnie Joan, lot 289, 240,000 for that colt. Tuapeka Lodge have been coming there for a very long time. It was a pretty emotional sale as well, because of course Father Dan passed away last year, and he was such an integral part of the sales. Close to $3 million there, Michael. The average up $44,500 for that. So let's have a look at the top lot from day 2, the first of the pacing sale days, of course. And here's this colt, Michael, by Bettor's Delight out of Bonnie Joan. Got to 240,000. Bonnie Joan, a brilliant racehorse herself, the winner of 10 races, and all the major players were getting involved here.
As it tends to be at the harness racing sales, Greg, you get those 5 or 6 major players. Most of them want the same 10 or dozen horses. Most of those horses are by Bettor's Delight. Mentioning just before about the trotters, people want horses these days which are from modern, fast families. They're not so interested in older families anymore. This is a family which is both. Sea Moon is the 3rd dam of this colt. She had a foal who topped the sale. She then left Wave Runner, who had a foal who's topped the sale, and now Bonnie Joan had a foal who topped the early part of this day's sale. Again, 152 for the mare, Greg. So that modern, new speed, close up in the family, absolutely crucial for what people want. We're seeing a lot more people buy here, Greg, who know the horses, the dams. They're not going 2 or 3 families back and going, oh, this has been a good family. This is actually a deep family all the way back, Greg. But those modern, recent performances, as said, Bonnie Joan at 152.8, I think it's becoming incredibly crucial to people wanting to pay, particularly past that 180, 200 mark.
Yeah, purchased by Emilio Mary Rosati. The consigners were, of course, Tuapeka Lodge, and a special day for the family, losing Father Dan last year. So I spoke to Julie Davey and got her reaction. Well, Julie, for so many reasons, this is a very special sale.
Very special sale indeed, yes.
A lovely horse by Bettor's Delight out of Bonnie Joan. We know her exploits on the racetrack, and this colt was clearly sought after.
He was clearly sought after, and he stated himself from the time he was born. He was always in our face, including Danny's. So.
Yeah, well, Dan will be looking down, no question. This one named after him, Tuapeka Dan, purchased by Emilio Rosati. So this is a significant sale for you guys, and you've been such great supporters of the Christchurch sale for so long.
Yes, we have. 45 or 50 years, I think we've been coming here, and I've been here for 45 of them. So no, it is, and it's lovely. Very good.
Look, it's a very emotional day because not only have you sold this horse for incredible money, 240,000, but it would have been Danny's birthday as well. So it'll mean so much to you guys, to you and Peter, and this horse was presented in beautiful order.
It was indeed, and that's Katrina Price prepared for us, and she did a beautiful job of him. And it is a big family effort because Phil, Peter's son, did the work as a weanling when Danny couldn't, so no, it was very good.
Oh, well, congratulations on behalf of New Zealand Bloodstock, a very important day for your family. Well done.
Thank you very much.
So great to catch up with Julie Davey there. They've been such great supporters of the sale. Another very significant sale on the day was lot 237, 215,000 paid for the first season sire Vincent out of Susie's Delights, the family of Cullen Byrne and Lockerburn, of course, and one of the co-vendors, Helen Conahan. I got a chance to get her reaction straight after the sale. Helen, all the good judges were on this guy. Congratulations.
Thanks very much, Greg. Yeah, it was an awesome result.
All right. You've had a good result here at the sale before. Of course, Susie's Delight, she's been prolific for you guys. The Christian Cullen Byrne went for 160, but in your wildest dreams, there's no chance you thought you'd be selling a horse for 200.
No, never. No, not at all. Like, it was just, unbelievable, really. I was thinking maybe 50, 100 at tops if I was really lucky, but yeah, this is just outstanding.
Yeah, gone to Gene Feast as well, and all the good judges were on this horse. I know Barry Purdon was one of the underbidders, John Street was getting involved, and when you get those sort of heavy hitters, you know they've looked over this horse extensively.
Yeah, I'd had a little bit of feedback from Nevillear, and they'd said that there'd been a few people through, but they weren't giving too much away beforehand. So yeah, it was just as much excitement for me, I think, as the buyer today. Yeah.
I think it's a record or close to it for a first season sire. You like Vincent that much that you've got a colt foal, and now you've got also in foal again to Vincent.
Absolutely, yeah. Jed at Nevillear, he was really happy with the colts that they had on the ground for Vincent, and he said, let's just go again, mate, let's just go again. So yeah, that's what we did, and really happy.
Well, huge thrill for you, and of course you combine with Spraden Lodge, so it's a great combination, and congratulations on the sale.
Yeah, thanks very much, Greg. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, wasn't it, Michael? Well, you get an opportunity to talk to a whole lot of different people. It's away from race day, and you see the excitement and the difference in emotion there. Obviously, the Father Dan Cummings Tuapeka Lodge sale, and then Helen Conahan, who hasn't been involved in breeding for that long, but gee, it means so much to them, and when they get those sort of figures, you can see it really touches them.
Oh, I bet it does. It's, you know, you have a relationship with these horses mentally from the time you decide which stallion to go to. You obviously love the mares. This was a really smart mating because Lockerbird and Cullenboom are both by Christian Cullen, and they've gone to Vincent, who's a similar horse, a big, strong, chesty, stand-uppy type horse, and it's left them again a nice, big, strong type of yearling. So that's smart. That's intelligent mating. With Vincent, he's got support now. Now, people are going to see this and think, oh, Jean Feast bought him, so therefore the price is inflated because she loves Vincent. But $215 means someone went to $210. So somebody else thought he was worth $210,000. He'll get his chance, Vincent. He's by Art Major, of course, so he's going to leave those nice, big, upstanding type of horses in the moulds of the Christian Cullen. So with the Father Dan situation, obviously everybody loved Father Dan. I think it'd be a good idea for them to name one of the barns just for the sales day. Of course, we don't own the sales ground, the Canterbury Agricultural Grounds, Greg, but there should be a barn there named after Father Dan every year when the sales comes around, so people can say, this is the Father Dan barn. Where the Tuapeka horses are, they're always in the same barn every year, Greg. I think he should be remembered because his contribution to the industry over an awfully long period of time has been quite remarkable.
Let's move to day number 3, Michael, and wrap up the figures from there. This was an enormous day, and for many reasons. So many of the top lots went, well, 2 of them went beyond 300,000. So the overall aggregate, 3.8 million, the average just under 43,000, the clearance at about 76, and of course the top lot, Michael, being by Bettor's Delight out of Heart of Dixie at 320,000 again. Purchased by Emilio and Mary Rosati. And here he is in the ring out of Heart of Dixie. Those who missed out on the first one, which went for 310, went for this one, Michael, and these two colts were just beauties.
The prices do such a good job. The horses look fantastic. They video them well. Obviously southern bred, southern reared. They have nice barrels on them. Again, current families people love this one, closely related to Magnificent Storm. It's the Chris and Me family. Speed, speed, speed. The other one who went for 310, Chicago Bulls family, recent speed. People are coming for the same horses, Greg, and so many of them are by the King, by Bettor's Delight, who's the best stallion to ever come to this part of the world and may well be the best stallion to ever come to this part of the world. But Katrina does such a good job. She has so much to be proud of. They've invested really heavily. Also in trotters this year. They started to breed more trotters. So, yeah, they are a powerhouse, the southern powerhouse of the breeding industry, because their level of professionalism is just as good as Brecken's and Woodlands in the north, Greg, and for that they're getting the results.
Yeah, so let's hear from Katrina Price and get her reaction post those 2 wonderful sales. Well, the smile tells the story, doesn't it?
It sure does. You don't get too many days like this, do you? So
you were pretty hopeful with these 2 Bettor's Delight colts that you'd have a good sale, and I guess when the first one went through for 310,000, you thought, yeah, that's a good result. The Chicago Blues family, we probably expected a decent price, but probably in your wildest dreams not that high.
no, look, I mean, once it gets to a point, then you don't really know where it goes, and and it's a blur, isn't it? So
310,000 going to Kentuckiana Lodge, Crandell Getty, so he'll get every chance, and then 320,000 topped by the Bettor's Delight Heart of Dixie. Beyond your wildest dreams, I'm sure.
As actually David Kennedy just said, you've just won the New Zealand Cup.
Well, that's effectively what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, without any costs and that. So, yeah, an amazing result. Yeah.
And a few good judges were on him. I think Emilio Rosati was the man who got the final bid in at the end. So again, it'll be going to a stable where every opportunity provided for the horse.
Exactly, and that's all you can hope for, and now we've just got to hope that the horse does the job because, as you said, they get every opportunity and they've had every opportunity up until now too. So, so I'm very hopeful.
No use asking you if you've been down this road before in terms of what you've got today, because we know they're record numbers, but a truly remarkable day for your breeding operation.
Yes, well, it's been a pretty amazing 3 days, but for our own breeding operation, and look, we've invested pretty heavily, and we've continued to do that. We've bought a lot of mares and young stock actually over this last winter. So I mean, it's not all beer and skittles. But no, this is just an amazing result.
Well, it is today.
Yeah, it is. It sure is. Champagne, actually, probably.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's move from those top lots and catch up with the Managing Director, of course, of New Zealand Bloodstock and get Andrew Seabrook's feel on the sale. Andrew, day 4 completed, and overall I'm picking that you and your team are pretty happy.
Overall very happy, Greg. The turnover's gone up from 12 to 13.2 million, so that's a success in itself. The average is up slightly, the median's the same as last year, and the clearance rate's down. So, but all in all happy.
Look, it was an ebb and flow, wasn't it? There were real highs, and particularly today, which I suppose a few missed out yesterday, so the quality of colt, particularly the Bettor's Delights today, was always going to happen.
I was a bit flat at the end of day 1 at Christchurch. It was a tough sale yesterday. The middle market was tough, and I thought, oh geez, what are we in for here? Because I thought that momentum from Auckland would kick on. It didn't, but we saw it today. It did. It was really strong today to have two $300,000 plus horses, to have a Vincent, first season side, 215,000. A couple of the highlights, and it just finished so strongly as you saw.
Price breeding. They've come here with some pretty good stock in the past, but they rocked up here with 2 colts today. The Chicago Blues one was first, 310,000. You probably thought, well, that'll do us. That's going to be the top. And blow me down if the Heart of Dixie colt didn't get more.
Incredible, 630,000 for 2 horses, and of course they were up against it. They had to take their horses back south last week on a long float trip and then back here, but it's all paid off for them, and they do a great job, and well done to them.
Of course, the last lot, Brian West had the last laugh. Yesterday it was a bit of a shambles. The wrong horse came through the ring, but ultimately he's been the big winner, 250,000 for the Start Dreaming colt.
Yeah, orchestrated beautifully by Brian West. Wrong horse through yesterday made 110 and today 250, so massive result for him.
But overall things are pretty good in terms of New Zealand Bloodstock's efforts over the 4 days, and particularly your staff.
Yeah, happy, proud of the team, proud of the staff, and to all the vendors, thank you. It was a long 4 days, but I think we came out pretty well.
Yeah, I think it was pretty well summed up too there by Andrew Seabrook. The King's still the king, Michael. Over $3 million stock-wise of his going through the ring with the 26 yearlings, I think it was, in Christchurch. Robert Dunn purchased 17, so there's no question that he wants to remain at the top of the premiership and replenish the stocks. And Jean Feast, even though she wasn't here, close to $700,000 worth of yearlings. The likes of Lincoln Farms, obviously Emilio Mary Rosati, all of the major players, Barry Purdon, they all got a share of the pie, maybe not as many as what they'd hoped though.
Yeah, and Mark Purdon and Natalie Rasmussen and their former owners were also active, buying for Hayden Cullen, so he's got some nice stock to replenish there. A lot of kudos needs to go to New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred. James Jennings and Andrew Seabrook, I was in their war room when COVID hit for a very small period of time last week, and they had to make some very big decisions. They copped a lot of pressure. Like, I was listening on the phone. They copped a lot of pressure from people saying, no, you can't go back a week, and it was very mayhemic, and they stood their ground. They didn't panic. They put things in place to bring the sale back a week. It worked. Yes, it lost some momentum, but there was nothing they could do about that. Had they gone back 2 weeks, it would have lost more. So that's a really important decision that those guys made and their team around them did. I think we've reached an impasse in the sales, Greg, now where we know that some families aren't going to sell as well. And if people want to bring those families to the sales, good luck to them, because not everybody's a commercial breeder. But you need to meet the market. You need to say to yourself, I'm going to be realistic. Not every colt's going to be 100,000 just because it's by bettors. So I think that's an interesting time for some of the smaller breeders. In saying that, they can retain them, and if they want to try and sell them as racehorses, that's fine too. The other impasse we've reached is this. New Zealand Bloodstock are now the biggest player in the market, along with Woodlands, Breckons, people at the prices. Stop naming the horses. We've just got to stop naming our yearlings. It's just nonsense. It doesn't happen in other codes, it doesn't happen in other countries. We have a situation here where the top price yearling from the sales, Greg, is going to go home and it's going to get a different name. Because Amelia and Mary Rosati call all their horses Stride. So the Turpeka Dan horse is no longer going to be called Turpeka Dan. Let's hope it's called Dan Stride. But why are we doing this? Why are we having a book full of horses with names that people don't want? Well, no one makes any sense when they tell me. Now, forget your brand. Your brand is irrelevant because Cambridge Stud or Waikato Stud don't name all their horses Waikato Tuapeka. I know it's confronting for people, Greg, but stop naming 400 horses and forcing people who don't want those horses called something Shard or something Tuapeka. Imagine if all Brecken's horses were called Tim Brecken and Bob Brecken. We've got to stop that, Greg, and that pressure has to come from the top people because it's nonsense, it's unwanted, it's a waste of time and money, and the sooner we do that, we take another step forward to becoming a mature sales industry.
Yeah, well, I did notice, Michael, that there were a number of horses not named for this sale. Of course, it's free to change the name. Harness Racing New Zealand changed that a wee while ago, so yeah, it's hard to argue with
and I
that.
applaud Harness Racing New Zealand doing that, but they shouldn't have to.
No.
People do it because they want to have their brand on it. People, it's like when you buy a house and someone's saying, I've etched my name on the side of the house. That's not how it works. I'm not trying to be rude to anybody here. I realise breeding is a really tough game and I respect everything you do. But this is nonsensical and the sooner we stop it, the better. And it's just going to take one meeting where a bunch of people sit down and say, let's stop doing that.
Yeah.
Or New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred saying, we're not going to allow you to do that.
All right.
Because they're now the bosses of the industry. The sooner we grow up about this, then we become an industry where people aren't forced to go around changing horses' names every time they buy one.
Very good, Michael. We'll see what unfolds as a result of that wee discussion as we move from the sales, and it's always a great barometer as to where we are in the industry, and judging by the sales that went through, the overall figures would suggest that the industry's in pretty good fettle. 13 million total, 45 average, 72% clearance, and of course the 320,000 for lot 361. Let's move from the yearling sales and with Garrard's head across the Tasman because we're going to wrap up some of the feature races that we have had over there in the last week. So let's do that now by moving to the Chariots of Fire, Michael, where Expensive Ego drew a wide barrier draw. Gee, there was a big run in this from Stylish Memphis, but let's have a look at Expensive Ego doing the business here. 148.9, and at no stage, Michael, did he stop working.
No, and straight into the Miracle Mile. So he was from barrier 9, 3 wide, outside the leader. He reminds me a lot of Heaven Rocks by the same stallion, and he's a big, raw-going, long-striding type of horse. He's probably a year too soon for a Miracle Mile, but he's in the race. It may not be a super strong Miracle Mile. He's going to need a new driver because Luke McCarthy, who's his regular driver, will be driving King of Swing, who goes around in the preludes this week. But this was a big, no argument performance. Zeus Bromac was second, the New Zealand bred horse, formerly trained by Zach Butcher, and as you mentioned, Stylish Memphis, absolutely huge in fourth. Expensive Ego started his career with David Thorne. He's now gone to Belinda McCarthy because he needs the water walker and some of the swimming pool stuff they have available there. But Greg, he'll be a factor in the big races if he stays sound, so a name to remember.
Yeah, the automatic entry race, of course, the Newcastle Mile was robbed of Lochinvar Art. More on that in a moment, but the Black Prince was outstanding, got a beautiful run. Look, he had every chance following Turn It Up. Most expected Turn It Up just to be too strong, Michael, but the Black Prince managed to get home in 151.1. That's Turn It Up in front, but he was flat at this stage.
Yeah, he was, and the Queensland team for Vicky Rasmussen has been disappointing so far in New South Wales. One change hasn't been seen to his best either. The Black Prince started his career in New Zealand, trained by a really good guy in Roy Roots Jr., who trains his horses at Newcastle, so this was a hometown victory, enormously popular in New South Wales. And Robbie Morris, who's one of the smarter blokes in Sydney harness racing, very analytical guy, good gate driver, did the job perfectly there. So he's into the Miracle Mile too. Huge occasion for Roy Roots Jr. He's going to buy a new tie, Greg. So he goes to the Miracle Mile. That's obviously on Saturday week. Yeah, pretty good horse again, good for the New Zealand breeding industry.
What about the Lochinvar Art situation? I'm picking if that had been a Kiwi that was late scratched or scratched close to the race day, that they might not have avoided the opportunity to go forward into the Miracle Mile. Can you update us on that?
Yeah, he needs to work between races on Saturday night and work satisfactorily, because he's got a little bit of a bung hoof, to be eligible or to be passed to be invited into the race. I've got absolutely no issue with what Club Menangle did. Basically, a club can have any conditions they want for a race, and that's fine. It was just a clarification of the condition. There was nothing to say that he had to start in the Newcastle Mile. Once he's accepted into the race, pretty much with any race in the world really, once you're accepted into a race, you tend to be part of that field. Whether you start or not doesn't actually impact their ability to invite you. They just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
A lot of people have said to me, well, would this have happened if it was from a smaller stable? Well, that's complete rubbish. David Moran's not a big stable. The reason he's going to get invited to the race is he's the best horse in Australasia. So,
and let's not forget, Michael, the Miracle Mile, Club Menangle, whether it's at Harold Park or Menangle, always a little bit of controversy around a race. And what does that do? Gets people talking about it just like we are.
Look, the Cox Plate did the same thing this year. Yep. People in harness racing are fascinated by this. Oh, it wouldn't happen to me. If that was self-assured, exactly the same thing would have happened. Yep. Exactly the same thing would have. They want them in the race. The clubs have a responsibility and a right to put whoever they want into any race, any time they want to do it. The Cox Plate's exactly the same. This year on the Cox Plate, they dropped a horse out. They invite horses in. Good luck to them, if that's what they want to do. So there's no issue with this at all. Anybody who thinks there's an issue with this are like these magical, mythical people who believe that Kiwis draw bad barrier draws. Computers don't understand their Kiwis. No one gives a shit about that. So that we can all be a bit more mature and Lochinvar Art, if he turns up in the Miracle Mile, up against it, Greg. We'll have to go into the race having not raced for 4 weeks. In my mind, at the moment, King of Swing deserves to be favourite for the Miracle Mile, not Lochinvar Art, because of those doubts.
Yeah, let's have a look at the 2 heats, $100,000 Group 1s that they are, Michael. The first of those, the Allied Express Logistics Sprint. Mark Shard's got barrier 1, turned it up in 2. Max Delight, who's 2 from 2 this time in 3, and Wolf Stride in 4. Gee, it's a battle for favouritism here.
Battle for the lead too. Wickedly fast front line. All those horses you mentioned there can get off the gate, as can Ultra Orlando, who Luke McCarthy's chosen to drive here. They will absolutely power up here. Got no idea who's going to win. Really even heat. The Miracle Mile's winner's not on this race. So it's going to be even heat. I think Mark Shard's interesting from barrier 1. He's a horse who should camp off the speed. Top 2 qualify, Greg. Third horse has a good chance of qualifying. The second heat's by far the one which we think is going to be dominated by the Miracle Mile defending champion, King of Swing. He's got barrier 2. Connections of the horses in barrier 1 have said we're just going to hand up to him and let him lead. He'll lead, Greg. Almost certainly he'll win. And because of all those reasons, and because he's sound, he's the horse to beat in the Miracle Mile. So King of Swing, $1.25 second heat, should do the job. First heat, confusing, should be a lot of fun to watch, Greg. Then the committee sits down in the boardroom there at Menangle, which you've been in, and they will discuss whether Lochinvar Art gets in, and then they'll choose who else gets in. No Kiwis in the Miracle Mile, but there is the potential that one could sneak in if Stylish Memphis was to win the Ladyship Mile, Greg. She might be a chance of getting a body.
Yeah, the way she went last week, she is backing up for the 4th week in a row. Let's have a look at the market for that. Better in Force loves it at Menangle, as we know. $2.90 favourite, Rock and Roll Angel, $4.20 Majida, who has won, of course, 18 from 24. Strong team there for Emma Stewart. $3.20 is the price about Stylish Memphis, Majida at $4.40. Where's your wedge going, Michael, on the Ladyship?
Look, Better in Force has been a long-time favourite for this and was disappointing last week. Just one battered after coming out of the 1-1. Luke McCarthy thinks the horse may have been underdone. He thought he was too light on her between her previous start at Melton, where she was very, very good. She's still top pick in the race, but she lost a bit of respect there. Had she brained them last week, then maybe a Majida type horse would have handed up to her. Rock and Roll Angel's been excellent. I think Stylish Memphis gets a chance here because I think they'll go pretty hard. But if I had to have a bet, I would say Better in Force, but yeah, disappointed by her last week. Majida, by the way, Kate Gath drove her to win last week in her heat. Kate Gath is not coming back to the meeting, a little bit surprisingly. She was also going to drive Tough Tilly, who is favourite for the New South Wales Oaks. She's chosen to stay in Melbourne, at Melton, to drive Tornado Valley, her old mate, in a $100,000 race. So she'll stay there. Luke McCarthy will drive Tough Tilly, and Greg Sugars will drive Majida. So big decision there for Kate. She's gone with the heart, maybe potentially over the wallet.
Yeah, and of course, Majestic Man goes round on that. Spoke to Phil Williamson. He said he'd like to see the horse get a card up. It is the Grand Prix for $100,000, and if he could get a softer run and have one shot at them as opposed to being the horse that has to bring them up, he thought that might be his best chance there. Speaking of trotters, let's go to the Brecon Farms trotting performance of the week from last week. Bolt for Brilliance, he's back, Michael, back in winning form. He is off 45 metres. Temporale was off 55, and they fought out the finish.
Yeah, look, he was excellent here last week, Greg, because he just won as he wanted. He did the work, controlled the race. The time wasn't super quick. They actually looked to be going quicker than that sort of 3:30 mark. But look, here he's got Temporale, who's brave as always and wonderfully brave covered. Starts to shut up shop a little bit. But Greg, he'll keep improving. The key factor out of the race, Tony Hurley, after the race said, not only do we want to race on Derby night if we can, we want to race in the Rowe Cup, but we want to stick around for the jewels. And if he sticks around for the jewels, there could be him, Cracker Hill, Ultimate Stride, Midnight Dash, and Muscle Mountain, Greg, in the same race. And that's without a few more. This could be one of the absolute highlights, if not the entire highlight, of Jules Day coming up first Sunday, of course, in June from Cambridge, Greg. That could be a stunning race. I've contacted all the connections of all those horses, Greg, and they've all said, yep, that's where we're heading.
Yeah, and Tony also gave me an indication at the sales that he might bring him down here for the Trotting Championship and maybe that 4 and 5 year old trot as well. So, yeah, we might see a bit more of Bolt for Brilliance here. We want to have a look at a bloke who's trained his first winner. His name is Stephen Anderson. Angel of Montana is the horse, so we'll have a look at that as we go to a break. And on the other side, as promised last week, we'll catch up again with Gary Woodham and touch on a few things, including the betting figures and the way they're going and restricted betting. We'll also have a chat to him about maybe the change of calendar. That when we come back on the other side.
Art Cracker looking to get through. Kelly and Assa deep on the lane, and then Angel of Montana. 150 to go. Heidi Franco 2 lengths. Art Cracker. Angel of Montana sprouting wings from the back. It's Heidi Franco. Angel of Montana coming very quickly. The outside. Will she get up? Oh, just about a dead heat. Angel of Montana was in front a step after the post. Not sure on the line though. It's Angel of Montana or Heidi Franco in a close photo.
One of the things I wanted to chat to you about was the change in calendar that the Australians have gone with, which is 1 January to 31 December, and what's Harness Racing New Zealand's attitude towards a potential change here?
Okay, another good one. First thing on my agenda on a list of things when I came in was what Australia had done, HRA. So we've had meetings with Andrew Kelly from HRA, looked at what they did and how they did it and why they did it and the results and what outcomes are driven. Went straight back into the huddle and had a look at what we've got. We've got one major problem. The dates, the racing calendar is now set in the new Act of 2020, and it states that the racing season is 1 August to 31 July. So that's when we're supposed to be doing it. So what we're saying is, fine, that's there. How do we change the Act? Well, I can tell you now that's going to take two years or so, select committees, a lot of time that we don't want to waste. So we're having discussions with breeders, owners, trainers, drivers and all like of what we think we can do. Now, one quick option is, can we change the birth date of the animals to the 1 January and away we go? So that's an obvious thought. We've got to put some more, and then I'll go and see DIA and see how we can actually get through this one as quick as possible.
Because I do have a major concern, and this year will be the first year that this will probably roll out, although we've already had it in the latter part of 2020, that from 1 August there could be a mass exodus of 2 and 3 year olds to Australia. And why wouldn't you, when they're going to get 4 more months, or in the case of a 2-year-old becoming a 3-year-old, the whole landscape has changed in terms of the longevity of them being able to race for that extra time.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. I can't. That's what's a priority. We can't wait, and that's what I said, waiting for a select committee process, we just can't wait. So again, it's urgent for us to do it. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get it done by the 1st of August. We'll give it a bloody good go though.
A major concern, particularly in the north, or let's focus on it, the Cambridge and Auckland region, where we're 100 horses short of not even capacity, even just having good numbers at race meetings each and every week. It's an area where I believe a lot of people have identified that is the problem, but nobody has even attempted to come up with a solution.
I think people have tried to attempt it, but that's meaning either breeding more horses, buying horses in from other countries, and at the moment that's probably not economic. I like to think that as more of those horses just got sold, it looks like they've been sold to New Zealand residents on this last sale, that more of them are staying here. Also in Auckland, I note that there were a few less Bidders Delights from Paul and Mary Kenny, Woodland Stud, on the market. Maybe they're keeping them here and going to race them in Auckland for us. Mary and Paul, if you're listening, that would be a good answer. Yeah. See how we go.
Yeah. Because there's no doubt that, having back-to-back race meetings at Cambridge and Auckland, that's one area that surely we've got to look at the dates around those, because they don't work, and last week was the best example of that. 6 and 8 races, it's hardly attractive, not only to people wanting to have place a wager on them, but also to sponsors and the like. How do we retain their attention and them wanting to participate?
Yeah, so we're right in the middle of doing the dates. I come from that meeting just before I come here. And so we are looking between Cambridge and Auckland of how we work together as one. They are different classes, but we've got to make sure that we put the right class at the right facility, the right venue, and get the right attraction value for them. So that's going to happen. Now just remember, and people start thinking that we're in the norm. We're not in the norm. The calendar we're racing at the moment was a COVID calendar that was put forward when we were ready to start again for June and July, and it's continuing. So you've got to go back to base one, which was the year before's race meeting, and look at how we have to bring it. There are a lot of venues not used, a lot of clubs not racing. I mean, Addington went from 41 race meetings to 66, so a lot of other clubs and venues didn't get it. So we have to normalise that and then see where we get to. So hopefully we get that balance back, Greg, because we don't have it at the moment.
Wagering, such a big part of our sport, and clearly drives the money which provides us with the stake level that we're at the moment and where we want to get to. What's your attitude in terms of Harness Racing New Zealand's attitude towards the restrictions on punters and a level playing field?
Yeah, so I have an issue on that myself. The Act made it very clear that the TRB, NZRB's gone, New Zealand Race Board's gone, so it's now the TRB. The TRB main role is to promote wagering. The codes under New Zealand Racing, NZR, theirs is to promote racing, okay? Now, I take my hat off to TAB. They've got a great ad on TV. If you haven't seen it, have a look. Get on trackside 1 and 2. And they're talking about the amount of money that gets leached overseas and the amount of money that should be staying here. Now, great idea, and I want punters punting in with New Zealand TAB. But once you do that and stop people from punting overseas, you've got to give them the opportunity to have a bet. So restrictions on the betting needs to be reconsidered when you're asking people to stop betting overseas. So let's hope that we all learn from that, and let's hope that we do the right thing for the punters, because that's where the money comes from, Greg.
Gary, the word integrity keeps coming up in our conversation. What is likely to happen in that area going forward? Okay, so that's already been mapped out. So what's happening is a new formation of a group called the RIB, Racing Integrity Board. That is hopefully going to be up by the 1st of May. That's the intention. There'll be a new board elected to that. Minister Grant Robertson will be handling that. Then there'll be an amalgamation of the current RIU and current JCA. They'll amalgamate, and then they will be looking to make changes under the new leadership style and from the board, and then we'll see that all
come our way and work with them. We must have an integrity unit that understands racing and is able to perform the duties they do today. What we have is the rules are made and set up by HRNZ. Today we then have the police, for want of a better word, which is the ROU, and then the courts of the JCA. That has to be combined and work a little bit better and understand all the issues so that we get the right outcome and the integrity and move things through quicker, Greg. It's taking too long to get these outcomes, and they know that, we know that. That's why there's been a change, and Winston Peters put that through in the legislation of the new Act.
Is part of that about education as much as prosecution? Because it appears to be maybe the latter that's to the fore.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what we're saying. We're spending too much time in those committee meetings and grilling people. Educate, learn, don't just always punish. And they know that, we know that, and we need to change it. And that's what this RIB is all about.
So yes, the Commentators' Day on Monday out of Palmerston North. Looking forward to getting along. They're having a bit of fun with the commentators. I know they loved it last year, and yeah, should be good fun. A $30,000 terminating pick 6 too, if you want to get involved in that one. Right, we're about to get into our preview, and Michael, just off the back of those Gary Woodham comments, one I wanted to ask you about the change in calendar. Should we align ourselves with Australia?
I don't see any reason to, Greg. I think our calendar works pretty well. And I also think our highlights of the year are over summer. We don't have a lot of winter highlights for racing apart from the duels. So what happens? Do you still hold the duels in the middle of winter if in fact it's not the back end of the season? I don't think we need to do it. I've seen no reason for us to need to do it. I don't think it's going to affect turnover at all. And
see, I see it completely differently, Michael. I don't see a reason not to do it. For a couple of things. One, why can't you have the harness duels, say, the third week in January, where they qualify from the 1st of January to the 31st of December? The other thing, and the most important thing for me, is a mass exodus potential from the 1st of August of our 2 and 3 year olds, because the Australian buyers will go, we can get these horses, race them for a further 5 months as opposed to what they are here in New Zealand. I could see a huge number of them heading across the Tasman. We can't afford to lose them.
I think there's potential for that, but someone's still got to buy them. There's still only so much money in the pool. And I don't think we saw that many this year. We might have saw 5, 10. The problem with a lot of people is when they talk about having the duels in the 3rd week of January. What's in the 3rd week of January?
Nothing. Oh, Karaka Million. Yeah,
and that's the problem. January is swallowed.
You only care about that now because you're involved in that thoroughbred.
No, you know why I care about it? Because I'm racing editor of the Herald. And I understand where things sit in the
make it the 2nd week in January then. I don't care which week it is.
Telegraph. January's dominated by the gallops. And we're not going to get any space. Most newspapers...
You can't have it in June though. We can't continue to have the harness duels in June.
I think there's places you can have it. I think you can have it in late May. But I do think that you need to be very strategic about this, because you put the duels in January, and for most people who aren't involved in harness racing, it's going to disappear. I still think we don't ingratiate the duels well enough with the galloping community. We don't get enough of them there. So we need to find a weekend. One that we do need to do is make sure we find a weekend and stick with it. Because we'll see what happened to the Auckland Cup bouncing around. It hasn't been great for it. But no, I wouldn't put it in January because it's just going to disappear. It's going to be swallowed by the Karaka Million. It doesn't matter how big you are, because you will be. I've seen that happen in Australia with carnivals like the Miracle Mile and stuff. For example, the Victoria Cup. Victoria Cup's on Everest Day and on the same day as the Caulfield Guineas. It just doesn't exist to anybody who's not in harness racing.
It's different. For mine, it's a different market. You can't compare Australia and what they're doing over there with the Everest, which is $15 million. But anyway, we can debate that another time. We've got a little bit more time, Michael. Let's get into the preview of the week. We're getting very close to the Woodlands Northern Derby, so let's go to race 2, which is the Prelude, Michael. And Krug, he's been beaten in his last 2. Can he bounce back on Friday night?
It's a tricky one, Greg, because he's obviously still at least as good, if not the best of this crop, but he's not as dominant as we thought he might be 6 months ago. Now, he's been beaten here fair and square by Hot and Treacherous, who's in this race again. It's the lead up to the Derby the following week, so I presume they're not going to blast off the gate and be heroic with him. So that peds a horse like It's All About Faith potentially in front, or Hot and Treacherous. If he couldn't run him down last week, why could he run him down this week? I'm not saying he can't, and I think he's the best of this crop, but if It's All About Faith is going to lead from barrier 3 and Hot and Treacherous sits on his back in the trail, then where's Krug going to be? The only place you want him to be in that scenario is in the 1-1 following up American Dealer, but is American Dealer going to drag him into the race? I think it's a really tricky race. It's All About Faith's the horse to beat, Greg, because I think he'll lead. But I don't really trust It's All About Faith. I'm not sure why. I'm just talking about this race, Greg. Of course, big sale during the week. They tell me Regazzo Max been sold for what might be around $500,000. I don't know the figure, and it's not really my business, but he'll stick around for the Derby down your way, and then he'll head off to Perth. I think that's a significant loss.
Yeah, it is. Mike Reid will train him over there. Spoke to Nathan Williamson yesterday, so he'll start in a race called the Ian Dobson Johnny Globe, then into the Flying Stakes, into the Derby. Nathan will train him through to that. He's disappointed to lose him because he knows, or thinks he knows, that this could be one of the best horses he's ever had, if not the best. But at the end of the day, it's business, and business has to be done. And the connections decided to move him on. They got involved at the sales over the week anyway, so they're trying to replenish the stocks, but hard to replace a horse like him. He's exceptional. That Derby market, $280 for It's All About Faith, Michael, $320 American Dealer, $350 Krug, BD Joe $7, and Hot and Treacherous is $21. So of course that's the Derby. We'll do a big preview of that next week. Let's move on to the breeders. Need You Now comes out of that New Zealand record run, which was at Addington Raceway, over a week ago now, wasn't it? A couple of weeks ago. So did get well beaten, Michael, but would only need to go up to her absolute best to be going very close to winning.
Yeah, I thought she'd win. I mean, these horses are going 3-7 over 2,600 metres. She sat parked and she's only got tired late. John hasn't got after her too much. I thought she could actually keep going forward here and get the lead. Plutonium Lady's an interesting one, but I don't think the best version of Plutonium Lady's as good as the best version of Need You Now. I did speak to John Dunn because obviously both John and Rob are at the sales this week, so you say who's been working these horses? They've been in the north, who's looking after them? That's always crucial for me. Reece Fence and Penelope Fence have been looking after the horses, and they do a great job. They've done a great job for John and Robert Dunn's team for a very long period of time. So you would expect this mare to turn up with the Dunn polish on her. For that reason, Greg, I think she's close to an absolute good thing.
All right, let's move to race number 5, Peter Brecken Memorial Ladyship it is, the Caduceus, and a couple of horses to come out of some hot races recently. Let's start with Enjoy Me. She was successful here, Michael. It was on New Year's Eve. It was a brilliant performance from her, provided Ben Butcher and, of course, the Telfer team with a Group 1 win, and she's got a barrier draw to operate from again.
Similar barrier draw and similar scenario here where a horse like La Rosa could be in front, Enjoy Me could be getting a good trail, and Better Twist, who we see here sitting parked running second, could once again have to sit parked. She missed a race with a very, very slight setback about 2.5 weeks ago, but she went to the workouts at Pukekohe last week and was really good. So she can win, she'll probably improve. Better Twist is the interesting one. Had 2 workouts since this performance. The second one very, very good, but she's going to go back at the start, come into the race in the middle stages, Greg, and be sitting parked. So she's been beaten in that scenario before. It's going to be an interesting race for her. Here's the Honey Queen, who's been a big improver for Bunty and Gareth Hughes in her last couple of starts. She's been given a pretty poor draw to deal with this week, but she had some depth to the Oaks for next week. And then, of course, you've got Off and Gone, who was excellent last time at Addington. Greg spoke to John Dunn about her. He reckons she'll handle the right-handed track. It's a beauty of a race. When you're adding Darling Me, Greg, it's the Oaks field for next week, just over 500 metres shorter. I think Better Twist is the best of this field. I think she is. But there's enough there about the way she's going to have to work in this race to suggest she can be beaten. I think she'll win the Oaks. And then the question mark horse, of course, Greg, is La Rosa, who was an absolute little piggy down at Addington. If she leads here, she's probably the horse to beat after all of that, but your confidence does get dented a bit when they gallop like that.
Yeah, she just did that out of nowhere. Couldn't see it coming at all. Mark Jones takes the reins on Friday night, so looking forward to that race. It's clearly the race of the night. The horse of the night there, Michael will be copy that. We go back and have a look at his performance at the workouts recently. Look, he should be winning, do you think?
I can't believe the bookies gave $1.50 for him. I thought they would open him $1.15. Absolutely stunned they gave $1.50. I'm going to say it again, completely flabbergasted. This is him beating Spirit of St. Louis, who's there in the Dickey colours, the Josh Dickey colours, because he's now joined Josh in the north. There's Matt Damon back on the inside. So he's beaten half this field last week at the workouts and done it easily in a very, very fast time. He's just better than them. The Christians Have Time's a really interesting horse, and I love the horse. People know I think he's an Auckland Cup horse of the future, but he doesn't have any gate speed, Greg. If I was Morris, I'd just put the foot down and keep going. I'm not going to tell Morris how to drive because he's driven about 3,300 winners, but I can't see how he doesn't win, Greg, and I think he's one of the great multi-makers we've seen in recent weeks. So $1.50 for him was outstanding money. You're getting $1.60 for Need You Now, Greg, and this might be the best or equal best horse in the country. You're getting $1.50 for him in a small field where the second favourite's got no gate speed, whereas Need You Now has to come from an outside draw and you're only getting 10 cents more. I think it's stunning, Billy.
Well, there's some potential multi-makers out of Alexandra Park. Let's put that to the side. Go to Ashburton on Saturday. Great supporters of our show they are. This is one of their big days. So let's get straight into the Sapling Stakes. It's with Sheep Milk New Zealand. Here's the performance of Mossdale Ben. You'll see him 3 back on the fence there, Michael, and he really charged late for the wee man Ricky May, but he's come up with barrier 7 this week.
Yeah, that's tricky around Ashburton because if you can't go forward, getting back in the Sapling Stakes has been a disaster over a long period of time. Pretty good horse, Greg, I'll be honest, I have no bead on these 2-year-olds. I haven't seen enough of them. I haven't seen them really get from that where they go from being 2-minute horses to 1:55 horses. That jump tends to happen in this race. They tend to go from being, okay, we're going good trial speed to proper speed in the Sapling Stakes. I think it's when the 2-year-old season actually starts. I'll be interested to see where it takes us.
Yeah, of course, all of those horses out of that video. The runner-up was Executive Banner, one on debut. I think Celtic Spirit, who's the $2.90 favourite for it, to be very hard to beat from the Hope team. Ben takes the reins, and Tide and Time gave Katie Cox a bit of a rough steer there in the straight, but can get some money in this too. And good on Katie too. She picked up a couple of yearlings at the sale, so she's outlaid some wedge on them, and we wish her all the very best with those. Let's move on to the other feature, which is a deep, deep race. It is the Hambletonian, of course. The 3-year-old trotters go to war, and let's have a look at What a Play With Me winning last time, beating race rival here in Time Up the Hill. These two were barely split on the line, Michael. There wasn't much between them, but gee, there's some firepower arriving, including the likes of Five Wise Men, a couple for Phil Williamson, Love in the Port and Leaf Stride. We know a bit about both of those. Paul Nairn lines up Out of My Way. He steers that one as well. The Robert Dunn team also have Dubois in there from a wide draw. This is a deep Newman's Tyres Hambletonian Classic, and these two will be right amongst it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good 3-year-old trotting season. I don't think we have a king of the crop yet. I think this was going to be interesting, but we're going to lead into an Oaks and a Derby and then a Northern Derby and a Sire Stakes Creek. I think it's a really good bunch. This week, I think Love in the Port's got a chance. Maybe Three Wise Men is the most advanced in its campaign.
That'd be Five Wise Men, Michael.
So you can have 2 more Wise Men if you want, Gregory.
If you want to.
We'll get 3 Wise Men and we'll add 2 more, and then I'll make it 5 Wise Men. I spoke to John Dunn about him. He said, look, even though I'm not driving him, he's the one to beat because obviously he does a lot of work with their team anyway, with the Edmonds team. So the 3 plus 2 Wise Men, probably the one to beat. But yeah, Love in a Port's going to be really interesting for Phil Williamson. Leaf Stride's back. I think this is a lot of moving parts to this. Going to be interesting to see how we get from here to the Jewels with this bunch of horses. The one thing I'm pretty sure about, Greg, is we're not going to have a dominant 3-year-old because it's so deep. It's going to be really hard to dominate.
So an excellent race, the Hambletonian, as it always is. The other one I wanted to highlight was Italian Lad. Michael, he was fresh up. He finished 4th. It was a hot race won by It's All About Faith, and I reckon he'll be very hard to beat off the back of this performance. And Michael, he'll be sporting some new colours. Let's have a look at those now. So those colours that Hayden Cullen's team will be racing in from now on, off the back of what Gary Woodham had to say last week. I think they'll stand out quite nicely. Thanks very much.
Yeah, good move. I think everybody's been really mature about this. The All-Stars colours are the most famous colours in harness racing, alongside the now Paul Nean colours and the Barry Purdon colours. The Paul Nean colours, of course, being the Caduceus colours. I think it's appropriate that Mark's and Natalie's colours retained by them. It's too confusing for punters watching in the pub who can't hear the sound, and they can automatically think these horses are still trained by them if they're not keeping up with it, Greg. So Hayden deserves his own colours, and he deserves the credit for any wins he gets in those colours. So I think everybody can be comfortable that was moved on.
That's a look at what's ahead and a very big week of harness racing for sure. Let's go to the hits and misses from last week with the bookies. See Your Art was a winner at Cambridge in the first, a decent outlay there. Shut Up and Dance was a big mover from 3:10 into 2:20 and won in an exceptional time for a maiden first up. Bolt for Brilliance was well back, and you see there was a couple of misses there, including Enchante, who had a tough run in the 6th there at Addington. So there's the hits and misses from last week. Door Contracting, Ronnie Dorr and his team at his Ruck Hero Racing. I see they were very active at the sales. I think they might have picked up half a dozen over the 2 pacing day sales anyway. And see those bets down the bottom too, the Inkwise New Zealand Trotting Derby, some support there for 5 Wise Men on a few occasions, Michael. But I did have a yarn to Ronnie at the sales there, and yes, he did mention to me that it might be about time that we found a winner each, because if he's going to be supporting a section of the show that provides losers, maybe he doesn't want to be involved.
It's been embarrassing.
It has been.
I tipped a horse last week who led in the middle half of, like, I don't know, pedestrian, like a snail, and dropped out and ran 5th. I'm an embarrassment to myself. I actually felt like picking copy this week because I want to pick a winner just to get back on the board, Gregory. But I went for Need You Now. I think they're comparable. I think you can multi them both up, but I'm not going to say that because basically I can't tip one winner at the moment. But we'll go with Need You Now for me. Need You Now, Gregory and Ronnie. Don't be too worried, brother. I'll get back there.
Yep, and I'm going to go with Italian Lad because even off 20 metres, I think it'd just be too good for them. He's a pretty smart horse, so I'm happy to be with him. It's been a busy week, Michael, but a most enjoyable one. Really looking forward to the harness action, particularly Alexandra Park Friday night, key lead up to next week's Derby and Oaks night, and of course Saturday at Ashburton, a most important race day as well. Thanks again for your contribution as always.
Greg, before we go, just one thing I wanted to say to everybody who prepared a horse at the sales, who bred a horse, whether you didn't get 320,000, whether you got 20,000, whether you lost money, thanks for all the effort that goes into that. Everybody who prepares a horse takes just as much time. You fall in love with the horse, you've spent all those time and money on it, Greg. To everybody who got involved in creating that marketplace, thank you from everybody in the industry. Whether you're the top lot or the bottom lot, I'm sure they got the same amount of love, and you have lots to be proud of.
All right, we look forward to seeing you next week. A big preview week it will be for the Miracle Mile and, of course, the Alexandra Park features. But from Michael and I, we'll see you in 7 days' time.